All right, let's jump right into it. NBA trade deadline is over. Today is Friday, February 10th. Trying to get this out as soon as possible, but life is crazy. But I mean, you've probably watched and listened to a lot of other videos and podcasts, kind of recapping everything, going deep into detail into this. So if you want me to jump into any trades individually, or maybe do a deep dive, I've been thinking about maybe a video series or some type of like content around diving into the individual deals like this. Just let me know, leave it in the comments or something like that. Appreciate any likes and subscribes, and we will jump right into this and go as fast as possible to break down all these trades. All right, let's start at the top with Kevin Durant to the Suns. We got this the night before the deadline, processed yesterday, but we've got blockbuster Kevin Durant, TJ Warren going from the Suns, or excuse me, going from Kevin Durant and TJ Warren going from the Nets to the Suns. The Suns or the Nets receiving a pretty big haul of assets, with Mikal Bridges being the top line, Cameron Johnson and Cam Johnson, some draft rights to a guy that nobody's ever heard of, and then multiple first round picks. So it looks like we've got 4 or 5 first round picks unprotected, and then 2 second round picks from Milwaukee. And this is where the trade got really interesting. I didn't even realize at first till today that they turned this into a four team trade. But the Nets looped in the Bucks to get Jay Crowder in this deal. And they used the Pacers to help with that, because I don't think the Nets wanted to take back these assets from Milwaukee. But in the Pacers came into this. The only asset the Pacers gave up in this deal to be involved in it was the draft rights to Juan Pablo Valette, and who, again, I've never heard of. You never heard of probably either. They get George Hill, Serge Ibaka, Jordan Nwora, 3 second round picks from Milwaukee, and cash considerations from Brooklyn. So basically, they got paid to be in this trade, and send just one asset for salary and stuff. They're going to buy out Serge Ibaka. George Hill becomes a potential asset. Maybe it even becomes a depth piece if they actually try to make a play-in run. And then Jordan Nwora is a kind of a future piece for them to take a look at. Interesting trade. I didn't realize this had been roped into a four-team deal, but obviously Kevin Durant is the headliner. Mikal Bridges going over to Brooklyn. I think this is a crazy trade. Like, you just, I don't know. It was just so surprising coming in. Really didn't think he was going to get dealt. I thought it was going to be another cliffhanger like it was in the summer. But blockbuster deal for sure. And I'm really interested to see, obviously we're all interested to see the Suns play. But I'm really interested to see this Nets team. I think they're going to be able to hold on to a playoff spot because they've got a pretty decent cushion in the play-in. I believe it's like 6 or 7 games or something like that. I'll throw it on the screen. So I'm interested to see how this kind of, 6 or 7 wing 3-and-D players end up operating. With the newfound success of Cam Johnson, and they've got some players. Dinwiddie can break down a defense. They've got some stuff there. They're going to be a pesky team who, if they do end up making the playoffs, could give, maybe for a game or two, give somebody some problems if they're not healthy or something, one of the top seeds. Yeah, so I've already spent too long on this. Let's move on to the next. Kyrie Irving to the Mavericks. This happened a couple of days before the Kevin Durant trade. Kyrie Irving, Markieff Morris to the Mavericks. Mavericks sending to the Nets Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, 2029 first unprotected, and 2 future seconds. Pretty surprising they were able to get this for Kyrie. The Lakers seem to be involved. I think this is a pretty good haul for the Nets. I think it's worth the chance. I think it's worth it for the Mavs to take a chance, but it's already seeming like they may not have as great of a chance at re-signing Kyrie as they would have thought. The Kyrie Irving experience is what it is. You're signing up for this. I guess they're trying to take a chance around Luka. But my concern here would be, there's a lot of downside just to Kyrie Irving himself being in the room with Luka, but also too, if he does walk in this offseason and just doesn't want to sign with you or forces you into some kind of sign and trade that you don't really get that much back for, like, does Luka look at that as a failure of the front office and ownership? And decide that this is just not the place that he wants to spend the prime of his career. So, we'll see how that goes. It's a pretty decent return for the Nets. Like I said, they've got a lot of pieces here that are under contract for the next few years, and they can just, make a competitive team or start to, send off 1 or 2 of these pieces at a time. Let's go to the next one. Next major trade, and this is probably the one most people want to talk about, is the Lakers trade. Now, this one was super interesting because I did not. I mean, we all thought the Jazz were going to make a deal. We knew pretty much that the Jazz were going to make a deal. Even with the Lakers, thought there was a pretty good chance that those teams ended up lining up. Didn't see the Timberwolves coming into this, but interesting there. I do like Mike Conley going back quickly on the details. The Lakers get D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. The Timberwolves get Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and they get some second-round picks. And then the Jazz, which is very interesting here, they get Russell Westbrook, obviously, for salary, Scotto Anderson from the Lakers, and Damian Jones from the Lakers for salary. And they get one first-round pick from the Lakers, 2027. And the details of the protections here are 1 through 4 in 2027, and then they immediately turn into multiple second-round picks. So we were hearing rumors early in trade season that Beasley and Vanderbilt, maybe even Conley, they were wanting first-round picks for each of them. And they end up only getting one protected first-round pick for all three of them. It's really puzzling to me why they would have even made this trade. I might go into this a little bit deeper, but my hot take is that this is kind of not a very good move by Danny Ainge. We've already seen some people talking about how they're going to miss Mike Conley in the locker room. He was a big culture fit with the Jazz and really, a fan favorite. And a lot of the players in the locker room are already kind of, they're already talking about how much they're going to miss him being there. And Vanderbilt was a value contract who was still on the books for next year that you could have re-signed and then still had that asset. So just an odd move for me for Utah to actually almost take the bare minimum here. But regardless, I think the Lakers improved. I was trying to make a video about this in the last couple of days, but just ran out of time with all the trades that are happening and it just was irrelevant. But I think this is a better move than going in for Kyrie and sending multiple first round picks for Kyrie, which was the rumor. I think getting Russell, Beasley, and Vanderbilt it improves your roster overall, gives you more viable players to play, potentially really good contributors, but also guys that, at least Beasley and Vanderbilt that are under contract control for next year that become assets that can be moved or packaged together or extended and traded to help you get something back with that other first round pick that you saved. So Russell is a free agent after the end of the season. So we'll see if they actually make a business decision there or if they get a sign and trade with somebody that's interested. But I think it gives them a little, still added flexibility for a player that's having one of his most efficient seasons. He's shooting the ball pretty well. We'll see how that goes. Like I said, like the Timberwolves getting Conley, veteran presence, a guy that can just hit an open shot and command kind of an offense and not really need to be that high usage. So moving on to Jakob Poeltl, the biggest tease of trade season was the Toronto Raptors. I'm honestly a little pissed off that this is all they did, basically. I really thought that Fred VanVleet at the minimum was going to get moved. But anyway, all they do is send a first-round pick and Khem Birch and 2 second-round picks to the Spurs for Jakob Poeltl, who they had sent out to the Spurs originally for Kawhi Leonard a few years ago before winning their title. I think this does make their team. This makes their team overall better. They gave up a guy who wasn't really in the rotation. 1 first-round pick, that's fine. He's worth that. But and I've seen this talked about a lot, and this is another one I could go in deeper on. All those guys on the Raptors team, Anunoby, VanVleet, Gary Trent, even Siakam being involved in all these rumors, and the fact that these were rumors that were circulated so often lets you know that stuff was getting leaked. The Raptors were talking to reporters. Agents were talking to reporters because they were hearing stuff. So you wonder what the chemistry in the locker room is going to look like for this team going forward. If they were already having problems and then you didn't actually make a move to change anything up, you brought somebody back in who's a positive, maybe that fixes stuff, but I don't really know if this was a great move by Masai or not. He's been a really good GM, so I'm not going to doubt him yet, but I have my concerns around the way they handled this and if this is going to yield the best results going forward for this team. Quickly, the James Wiseman to the Pistons was an interesting deal. So originally, the way it was reported, the way the tweets were coming out from Shams and Woj was that the Warriors were sending James Wiseman to the Pistons for Sadiq Bey, which was at first like, oh wow, this is pretty good for the Warriors. They're getting a valuable wing back that's going to be a restricted free agent that they can resign and all of this who can hit the three. Just another guy that you could already see like hitting back breaking shots against you for the Warriors. But then we find out that he's being rerouted to Atlanta, which we hadn't really heard of, I guess, publicly being interested in Sadiq Bey or that really was involved in much. So Wiseman still going to Detroit, Sadiq Bey being routed to Atlanta, um, involving the Blazers here, who Atlanta basically sent the second round picks to the Warriors, the 5 second round picks. Then the Warriors rerouted those second round picks to the Blazers. The Hawks, I think, had the rights to, or either the Hawks or the Pistons had Kevin Knox. I'll put that on the screen. Not that it matters, but he got routed to the Blazers, and then the Warriors got Gary Payton II and 3 other future second round picks from Atlanta. So basically they ended up a player that they have been reportedly reluctant to include in a lot of deals, or that were still wanting to see what they had in him, in James Wiseman. They end up trading him for a guy that was on the roster last season that they could have re-signed. Yeah, they would have had to pay some money, but that luxury tax bill would not have been due until the end of this season, which they could have figured things out to not, pay exorbitant amounts. They ended up trading that asset just for for a guy they already had in the building that wanted to stay there. They didn't, I guess they thought they couldn't pay. Very interesting. I think this is kind of I guess you're admitting defeat here if you're the Warriors. I mean, you can give them credit for that, but I still think it's a mismanagement of assets. I mean, this guy's like a number 2 overall pick, and a crazy, like you have a dynasty that has 2 down years and lucks into a second round pick, or a number 2 overall pick that can kind of almost relaunch this franchise. It's just one of those like storybook kind of situations, and they just really blew the pick with James Wiseman. But it is what it is. Yeah, it's just really just it's a nothing deal to me. I mean, I think Gary Payton's going to be valuable for them. He was really valuable for them last year, but at the same time, I just think the context of the deal, you really kind of messed up this whole James Wiseman period for the team. Moving on to the next kind of notable trade because it involves 2 playoff teams. We've got the Clippers, this kind of Clippers-Rockets-Grizzlies trade. I was excited as a Grizzlies fan to see them get a shooter in Luke Kennard from the Clippers, and they only had to give up Danny Green and some second-round picks. So the details of the trade: Eric Gordon, 3 future seconds go to the Clippers. The Rockets get John Wall, Danny Green, and a protected pick from the Clippers. Protected pick swap from the Clippers. I think that ended up being some second-round picks, maybe a first-round pick, and the Grizzlies got Kennard. So funny enough, John Wall goes back to Houston. He's going to get bought out. Danny Green will probably even get bought out. He played a couple of games for the Grizzlies. Still looked a little slow. Hit some shots, but he's still only 9 months removed from a ACL tear. Eric Gordon finally traded, going to the Clippers. I don't really know that this does much for them, given who's on their roster currently. But the Clippers, we can go ahead and cover what else they got today. They also traded Reggie Jackson for Miles Plumlee, and they got Bones Highland for a couple of second-round picks. So we'll go into that in a second. But quickly here, the Rockets, this is just them accumulating a couple of things for some assets they didn't care about. And then the Grizzlies getting Kennard, who one of the top 3-point shooters in the league, catch and shoot player. The Grizzlies were rumored in a lot of big deals, like with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. But, they end up making something small, but I think a good improvement. I think they're still going to have issues we've seen in the last couple of weeks. Perimeter defense in some respects, the liability on offense that is Dylan Brooks. Just needing some, could have used some maybe veteran leadership. Got rid of that veteran in Danny Green. Bring in a guy in Luke Kennard who's not a liability, but at the same time doesn't seem like a strong personality. I think he's going to help, but we'll see. I think it's going to help the offense overall, but we'll see if the overall kind of, I guess, the overall attitude of the Grizzlies and the overall kind of vibes of the Grizzlies are continue to, how they continue, right? Like, it's really hard to see. I mean, they're still in the number 2 seed. They still, are in good position, but just haven't had a lot of confidence around around the team in the last couple of weeks. But I still think they have a really good shot. Great to see them getting a 40+% 3-point shooter added to the fold, something that they've needed for a while. So, and quickly on the Clippers, getting Miles Plumlee and Bones Highland. I think I like those two deals better than the Eric Gordon deal. I think Bones Highland is a good player to have under contract for a couple more years, still have his restricted free agent rights. He's kind of a heat check player, but maybe you can turn him into a more consistent point guard. And you've got Miles Plumlee to come in and back up some very, very, very needed depth at the center position. And I believe they only had to give up Reggie Jackson and a 2028 second round pick. So they didn't really, they got some second round picks in this Rockets and Grizzlies deal. So they basically just rerouted those things to the Nuggets for Highland and then the Hornets for Mason Plumlee. So I think the Plumlee deal is probably the best one overall that they got. He's going to be the one that contributes the most immediately and in the playoffs. And we'll see how everything else goes for them. Josh Hart to the Knicks. I didn't realize this was another one that I didn't realize was moved into a 4-teamer as everything was processed. But originally, this one started with Josh Hart going from the Trailblazers to the Knicks for Cam Reddish and a protected first, which ends up being a lottery protected first from New York. This one was kind of roped into the Matisse Thybulle 76ers and Hornets trade. So overall, what we have in these 4 teams is the 76ers receiving Jalen McDaniels from the Hornets and 2 second-round picks. We've got the Hornets kind of getting just the picks in the deal, and Zvi Mikhailuk, who's just been kind of passed around as a trade piece for several years now. Then the Trailblazers get Reddish, Thybulle, Ryan Arcidiacono as a salary, the protected first, and the Knicks get Josh Hart. Thoughts on this deal? Quickly, I like Josh Hart. I think he's going to be a good rotation piece for the Knicks. You can talk about Tibbs all day and if he's going to take minutes away from another young player, but it is what it is. I think it's a positive move. I like the Trailblazers taking a chance here and kind of shifting a few of their pieces to get some different guys in the room, a defensive specialist in Thybulle, and then Cam Reddish, you're taking a shot at him, basically. I feel like wings tend to flourish in Portland, so we will see if the same can happen with Reddish, but he's got a pretty high ceiling if you end up tapping it out. And then you've got the protected first, which is nice. The Hornets, they've basically given up 2 of the rumored pieces they were going to trade, Jalen McDaniels, Mason Plumlee, and they've gotten 3 second-round picks and Reggie Jackson, who they're going to buy out. Just a poorly run franchise, to keep it short. They really never maximize anything that they have, including talent on the roster as well as trade pieces. Let's just hope that LaMelo Ball gets out of there and that all the, as many players as possible get out of that place, because it's just not a well-run situation there. Real quick, Celtics get Muscala from the Thunder. Muscala had been playing a lot more for the Thunder recently. They were probably trying to put him on showcase for a trade potentially. He'd been at the Thunder for a few years, good locker room guy, a little veteran presence for them. Shoots the 3 really well. They only had to give up Justin Jackson, who wasn't playing, and then 2 future seconds. Really good deal from the Celtics. Big men depth is where they've kind of struggled with health and everything. This is going to be a guy who gets minutes for them, potentially even play some playoff minutes when they need some, a little bit of a floor spacer. Pelicans, just like the Grizzlies, were rumored in a lot of trades for big pieces like OG Anunoby. End up only making 1 deal for Josh Richardson. And I guess this was more so just to get off the Devontae Graham contract. They have a ton of picks. Second rounders were the hot piece in this trade deadline. So they give up Devontae Graham and 4 seconds for Josh Richardson, who's been traded like basically once a year for the last few years. And I don't really know what this does. I mean, Richardson's a little bit better of a shooter than most of the wings that the Pelicans have in the rotation now. But do you really want Richardson taking rotation minutes from guys like Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels and Najee Marshall, guys that are already in the building, and Trey Murphy? I guess it's just added depth. I just don't. I guess it was a kind of a nothing, kind of a, take a chance on a guy. Maybe they like him. Maybe he's a good locker room guy. We'll see. And then one of the other ones, the Suns get Darius Bazley. So basically, the Thunder had been shopping him. We'd heard a few rumors around him. First round pick from a few years back. Just hadn't really, just wasn't really getting the PT that he wanted in Oklahoma City. The Suns take a chance on him. They get rid of the Dario Saric contract, even though he'd been playing pretty well. A second round pick and cash considerations. I guess they just wanted to take a chance on Baisley, maybe being a better, maybe a little bit more athletic defender than Saric, and maybe he fits a better role now that they have a loaded offense with Durant, Booker, and Paul and Ayton. So we'll see. I mean, I guess it's you didn't really give up anything. And Baisley, I want to say, is like a restricted free agent coming up. And there's a couple other deals that were just weird. The Hawks and Rockets. I'm not even going to cover that. Just a salary saving move. And then the Thomas Bryant deal, interesting for the Nuggets because, and this was another 4-teamer that I didn't realize was a 4-teamer. Nuggets got Thomas Bryant for a couple of seconds to the Lakers. The Lakers roped this deal into the they got it for a second round pick and Devon Reed from the Nuggets, who he's a wing shooter. And then they looped in the Magic to get Mo Bamba. And so the Clippers, this is just to go down through it. Nuggets get Bryant, Lakers get Bamba, Reed in a second. Clippers get Bones Highland, Magic get Patrick Beverley, a second round pick, and cash considerations. They're going to buy out Beverley. It's been reported today. Just an interesting 4-teamer. I think the Lakers, once again, got the most valuable pieces out of this. Clippers took the chance on Highland. Actually, I don't know. I mean, I like Thomas Bryant. I think he's going to be a good backup for Jokic. Doesn't play much defense, but just an interesting 4-teamer. I think nobody really gave up a lot here, but every team kind of got something that they wanted. And I guess really the Magic, they're just getting rid of Mo Bamba because they didn't want him in the locker room anymore. So anyway, that was way longer than I thought it was going to be. Excited to jump into a few of these individually or something going forward. But I got some stuff in the works. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you tuning in. Peace.